What do you do, and what are the guide's instructions for when we feel afraid and we're not quite sure what else to do except act from fear because we're afraid?
Now, yes, I'm going to go to them for this one because I don't know that I want to try to answer it as Paul. The idea that you're afraid is what you must attend to in the evidence of fear. And the evidence of fear that you have accrued is usually based on historical data, what one should be afraid of. To see a panther on the road, to see a panther on the road and to get out of the road and avoid the panther is not necessarily an act of fear, is not necessarily an act of fear. To shun your neighbor because you heard terrible things about her would be an act of fear. And to understand yourself as being reliant on fear to negotiate your landscape, utilizing it as a compass of one kind or another, would in most ways just suggest that you are enabling fear to be your director. When fear is your director, you compound the evidence of fear and it becomes dense. The density of the field that you all operate in, call it what you wish, we will say the common field, informed by fear, is the world that you have been navigating. Until you begin, underline the word begin, to lift beyond the common field and the residual affect of past fear, you will be unable to create in a higher way because fear in its own way serves to pollute the field. The upper room does not hold this level of pollution. We invite you there so that you may align to your own potential, underline potential at this level. There is a difference between realizing one's potential and then honoring that potential and acting upon it and relying upon the potential to direct you, than embodying it in fullness because you've decided that you can or you should. Those that have that opportunity, I have ascended and I know who I am at this level, perhaps are blessed or perhaps are deciding for themselves what they should be based on an idea of separation. When one releases the need, underline the word need, to be afraid for its own protection, when one decides that one can move beyond that, one begins to elect, underline that word, different choices. There is always another opportunity. If in the moment you're feeling frightened, and underline the word feeling because that is what you're experiencing, you can make a choice to align to something other or higher or different. I am word through the fear that I experience is claiming the action of the divine upon the vibration of the fear and also the historical data that that fear has accrued, why you should be afraid. As long as you think you should be afraid, you will enact fear. You may fight your neighbor, you may fight a country, and all of these ideas are generally born in a belief in separation, which is indeed the action of fear, period. And they're saying period.
What I'd like to hear more about is the clearing process, and if you would be willing to share in your own life how that's worked and what you've learned about it.
I'll try to do it from my own life because I don't always see the
You're the
changes.
student in the front row seat, you've been listening.
I know, but I show up all the time for the work. So I don't necessarily have the experience. I don't have the experience that you had as a reader of the book from the outside because the words came through me, which is actually more confounding. If you were the channel for this stuff, I could say, well, I agree with this or I don't, and put it away or not. But I live with this stuff in a very different way. My abilities through doing this work have shifted enormously. How I operate sort of spiritually and psychically have been altered. The process of clearing stuff is usually, here's the idea. If I was living in a really dark room in my youth, and I was, truthfully, it was a pretty dark experience, vibrant in some ways, but dark. The process of moving into a light room, I think, is a process that one undergoes. Because when what you're used to is sort of being in a cave, the idea of being flooded with light is fairly terrifying. It makes you want to retreat even farther back. So my steps forward as they have come in different ways. I'm living a life now that I would not have imagined ever, ever, not possible in my worldview. And I am continuing to have an experience of this work, which at times confounds me a little bit, and at times gives me great comfort. But the process of clearing really isn't a lot different than pouring clean water into a glass with silt at the bottom. It rises to the surface on its way out, and you get to see it on its way out. You get to say, okay, here's that thing, or here's what I believe, or here's how I'm frightened, and here's what I do with that fear. I would be lying to say if I felt like I was done, I had arrived. I don't feel that. And I'm somewhat suspicious personally of people who announce themselves as enlightened. My feeling is that people that probably are don't need to announce it. They're busy doing whatever their work happens to be. And maybe that's my fear of claiming something. It's, as you suggested, it's possible. But how I have left the idea of who I was and moved into something, it's less about claiming a different identity in the world. It's claiming a different experience of self in the world. That's the best way I can do it. It's presence in being. And what I think is moved is the process of obstruction, the things that stand in the way on the path that we walk. And I think those things get thrown into our path when we're on the path in order to attend to them. I don't think this is spiritual bypassing. I think you can live beyond certain things, but if it's mine, my creation, or my karma, if you want to say that, or my fear, I'm going to probably have to attend to it in one fashion or another in order for it to shift. And the claims of truth or the attunements can really support this in productive ways.
Discover on-demand videos and docuseries, explore a full schedule of daily life classes, and become part of an incredible community. At Sounds True One, we invite you inward to find your way your way.